Here. Mike Fritz. How old are you, Mike?
I am 39, but I tell you, it's coming like a freight train, brother. I turned 40 in like 2 weeks. I'm fighting it off with everything I got, my man.
Yeah, we can't fight it off, right?
40 in like 2 weeks, man. It's coming.
Comes quick, my brother.
It is.
Round up, homies. What's going down, my round up homies?
If you manage a team,
How's the weather up there, by the way, Mike? I got people come on.
Yeah, well, so I'm in the Midwest. Cincinnati is smuggy and hot, man. It's hot right here. But my wife and I actually, ironically, coming on the show today, we just put an offer in on a place last night in Phoenix, Arizona. And so if that puppy gets accepted, we close September 10, and we're going to be making the move to Phoenix, my brother.
What?
Yeah, I'm excited. We've been ready to move southwest for a while. And
why is that? Humidity or what?
Well, first of all, I hate the cold weather, man. I hate it with everything that's within me. And so we're gonna go out there. But I love the climate out in Phoenix. I love the area. I love the mountains. I love the outdoors. I'm a big golfer, so golfing year round is off the chain for me. And plus the market in Phoenix, baby. Oh my goodness, the real estate market in Phoenix, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because right now, because so many people. With Corona, there's a lot of people in California that want to migrate to Arizona just because of some of the climate in California right now. And so the market is it's clanking up like crazy right now. So it's a good time to get in, especially we're making a move in buying. The first place we're buying is kind of like this duplex kind of thing that's going to be a killer Airbnb. And so I'm actually only going to live there for like 6 months, and then we're going to go buy another house. But I'm going to get there and set up an Airbnb hub. I'm real big on, I never want to pay for my own house. I want my real estate to pay for my house. So when I go in there, that's what we're doing. We're going to buy a place. It's going to pay for it. And then I'm going to go someplace else and buy my house and then let that house pay for it.
It's funny how real estate will change the way you look at things, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness. Changes everything. It changes the kinds of houses we look at, changes how we think about everything. Cause it's like, for example, I love to fish. So if I want a brand new boat, I ain't buying a boat, man. I'm going to go buy a duplex that pays for my boat. You know what I mean? I'm not buying a boat. I'm not going to drop 40 grand. You know how much money I can make with 40 grand in real estate? Yeah. I'm going to go buy a property that pays. When I had student debt, when I got out of college, I didn't go to college till I was 25. And when I graduated, I had a bunch of student debt and the payment was $500 a month. And my wife and I we bought a duplex that paid 3-unit actually, that paid $500 a month, and it paid my school debt.
That is so cool.
And so my goal is always to buy real estate that covers my life.
Buy real estate that covers your life.
I like that. And so like I call it your freedom number, right? So you get all your expenses and your entertainment and your fun, and then add like 10%, and that's your freedom number. That's how much money you need to make passively to just breathe and live and have a blast, and get that freedom number, and then we can work on wealth. But if that's $5,000 a month or whatever that is for you, that's our freedom number, so we can sit back and have a little bit of fun, man.
Nice. I want to talk about that freedom number. Roundup. Welcome, guys. Welcome, my Roundup homies. How you guys doing in the middle of this pandemic? It is 85 degrees here in Virginia. How's the weather up there, Mike?
Oh, it's good. I think we're at about 95 actually down here in Cincinnati, man. I think we're at we're at about 90. Actually, you know what? I take that back. We're only at 8. We're at 84. We're right with you, man.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought it was a lot hotter outside today. I thought it was a lot hotter. Yeah, we're at 80, about 85 now. Yeah.
Roundup family. This is Chris Haskins. My mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. That what you just heard wasn't even the show. That was just Mike dropping knowledge. As Kevin Hart says, golden nuggets.
Ooh.
Roundup. We got Mike Fritz on the channel today. How you doing, my friend Mike?
I'm doing so good, Chris. And not only am I doing good, man, it's an honor to be with you and your show and your people. I've been following you for a long time, man, and you're just doing some unbelievable stuff for real estate. And I want to thank you.
Yeah, cool. You too, my friend. Yeah, Roundup. Make sure you get your questions ready, as I have a million of them. I've been jotting down before you guys came on. I am not necessarily an expert when it comes to multifamily, but what I like to do, like Henry Ford, I just like to keep the men that know everything about, not everything, but they know a lot more about this stuff, than me, where I can just hit a button. And this gentleman here, over the past few weeks, been able to text him, ask questions, learn more about him, and he's actually been doing this since the early 2000s. Mike, did you start in multifamily? Just give me a little
Yeah,
background on that.
so this is a crazy story, man. So I know this is gonna sound weird to start here, but I met my current wife in 6th grade, man. I met my current wife in 6th grade. We started dating, and whatever dating looks like in 6th grade. I proposed to her when we were 19. I'm serious, man. I'm not lying. I proposed to her when we were 19, and we got married at 20. Now, why I tell you that story is my family owned a couple rental properties as I was growing up, some duplexes and just some rental properties. So I kind of grew up around it. But when I was 20, I got my builder's license and I started a contracting business right when I got married. So I started building houses.
Gotcha.
And I asked my dad, of course, I didn't have any credit. I had no money. You know, I mean, I was broke as all could be. I asked my dad to help me get a loan, my mom and dad to help me get a loan at age 20, just about to get married. We said I do. And my dad, mom helped me get a loan. And I built, because I was a builder on nights and weekends, I built a duplex brand new. I built it, and my wife and I moved into half, rented out the other half, and I lived in a brand new place when I got married for $100 a month.
So that's where you got bit by the multifamily bug, I'm presuming.
That's exactly right, man. And not only that, but I realized how valuable it was because I built that place for $121,000, and I sold that place 2 years later for $194,000.
Oh man!
And so or $184,000. I'm sorry, $184,000. And I realized, I'm like, man, that's a big jump for a 20. I think I was 22 and a half, 23 years old at the time. And so 22, I think I was. And so when I sold that, my point in saying all that was I really got the bug for what they call house hacking, where you live in half of your, like, buy a duplex, you live in half and the other side pays your mortgage and you essentially live for free. It's how I built a lot of my, my real estate. So I loved house hacking because you don't have to, when you don't have to pay for mortgage, you can invest that money, right?
That's something. You should have a place for it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Every dollar has a name, right?
That's a good point. Every dollar. You know, I don't think my career didn't blow up until I adapted that philosophy. Because when you say, where does it all go? You ain't going nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. You got to know where it goes. Every dollar has a name. I like that, Mike. I like that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
Roundup, thank you for joining us. Mike Fritz is a multifamily investor, so he's in Cincinnati, and we are curious. I'm going to ask some questions, Roundup. I've got my questions, but I really want to know what you guys want to know because I'm a single family guy. So when Mike and I start talking, it's like a lot of things that we do are that they look the same, but he might just go about them a little differently. So today, Mike and I are going to go just back and forth for a few minutes here. But really, I want to know what you guys are thinking. How can we serve you? Mike is working on some training stuff, and we wanted to just literally to serve today, to give. Is that where we're at, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just want to help people see the value of multifamily real estate. I'm reading the questions, man. You guys have some good questions already, which tells me Chris has done an amazing job just dropping amazing knowledge over time, because you guys are obviously well informed with some of the good questions. So that's phenomenal. We're just going to answer questions today, Chris. I just want to give value so people can see why I fell in love with this game, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So why? I know. Let me just rewind because I want to feel like the Roundup family is talking through me to you. Okay, so
absolutely.
I'm thinking single family. You built that, man, so much. Mike, you built the first one you did was multifamily. So did you dabble in single family? Because most guys don't just start at multifamily.
Good question. Good question. I was too dumb to know that I shouldn't start there. I really was. And I know that a lot of people say that kind of as an arrogant thing, but I'm serious. I was just, my parents owned a duplex, and so it didn't seem as scary as I probably knows a lot of people maybe are scared of it. But for me, I actually have hardly ever done single family. And so now I'm into single family flips. I do some fix and flips, and we do some wholesaling now through a team I have. But really, I got started and fell in love with multifamily from the get-go. And the reason, do you want me to bust into kind of the reason why I'm in love with it? So there's really three reasons that I love multifamily. Number one, I like passive revenue every single month. I love passive revenue every single month.
From a rounduppers that don't understand passive, though, may not be familiar with passive, What is, because people could consider passive so many ways.
Oh,
It could be
absolutely.
stock market. I mean, what is passive in your
Yeah.
mind?
So for me, passive is money that shows up in my bank account every single month with minimal amount of work. Now,
Minimum.
so the reason I say minimal, complete passive revenue is I think it's a lie.
Me too.
Yeah,
Doesn't exist.
I don't think it exists.
Doesn't
Like,
exist.
so when people are like, sit on the couch and just make money, my friends, that game ain't a
Doesn't
game
exist.
ain't a game.
Doesn't exist.
And if that game was true, everybody be there, right? And so, but there is a way to minimize the amount of work you do and still maximize the revenue. So for me, passive revenue is a property that pays me every single month, whether I'm there or not. Whether I fix anything, like meaning fix and flip, which I love the fix and flip game as well. But I'm saying, like, if I don't fix it up, if I'm not there, if somebody's not there working on it, we're not going to make money. Real estate, or multifamily, they're paying me every single month. So I like that passive revenue of money every single month. And then the more properties I get, man, my salary every month just keeps going up. So I love passive revenue. The second thing, the reason that I love multifamily is I like getting more money per month from one footprint of property. So a lot of people, so like if you buy a house, you have to find financing somewhere, whether that's private money or bank money or your own cash or a home equity line of credit or wherever you get money from, you're gonna have to get money.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to find the deal. You got to find a deal. You got to find money. And you got to somehow make that deal lucrative, whether that's fixing and flipping, or maybe that's wholesaling where you just sell the house to a flipper or whatever. You've got to find the deal and you've got to find money. Well, I learned that if I was going to go through the work of finding deal and finding money, I'd rather find a deal and find money that paid me more money for that work. So if I go to find a deal on a fix and flip, I got to find the deal and I still got to find the money. But if I rent a single family home out, I might net $300-$400 a month. But if I get a multifamily, I can usually close to double that. And so if I'm going to go through the work of finding a property and finding the money, man, I want it. Yeah, it's the same amount of work. So I want to scale that monthly revenue. So that's the second reason.
Okay.
The third reason is probably my favorite. The third reason is what I call forced appreciation. Now, here's what forced appreciation is in the multifamily space. See, when you buy multifamily, the bank sees it, especially when you get 5 units and above. By the way, just a quick distinction in the multifamily world, 2 to 4 units is considered residential. 5 units and above is considered commercial, just so you know, so the family understands. If I start talking about 5 units and above is commercial, 4 units and below is considered residential.
Gotcha.
From a bank perspective. But when a bank looks at a multifamily building, they look at it more like a business, because most people don't own multifamily as their primary residence. Most people, of course I did, but most people own them as investments. So they know that they're owned by business people. So banks look at them as a business. So now think about this for a minute. If I buy a property and it's getting, if I duplex and it's getting $1,000 a side, that's $2,000. If I bump up the rent $250 and $250 to $1,250, I'm now making $500 more per month. That's $6,000 more per year. So if I just do it's $6,000 more per year, the bank is going to see that property as worth more money, because the bank determines its value based on the money it brings in, not based on the area or those kinds of things.
Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier, Mike. I know in my world, in my mind, my mentor was talking about forced appreciation, Mike. That's where in the single family realm, say for instance, if I own a house here, they build a new strip mall or a new Kroger or some type of new shopping facility that's going to shoot my value through the roof, irrespective of the rents that are coming in. But you're saying it's a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely. So that's called economic or environmental. I call that economic or environmental appreciation, meaning the economy tells your building it's worth more money, meaning you understand, just a quick side note. I don't want to lose anybody, but what drives appreciation, what makes a building worth more money, is less supply and more demand. So when there's more people that want a property and there's less of them, they're worth more money. We've heard that supply and demand. It applies to real estate too. So when more people, the reason when the Kroger comes into town and the the strip mall comes into town, the reason that house is worth more money is because more people in that area want houses, and the number of houses usually hasn't changed. So there's more demand for houses, but the supply hasn't changed. And so that's why those houses are worth more money. But the reason that's not, in essence, that's appreciation, but we really can't force that unless you're planning on building the Kroger, right? And so that's dependent on the that's dependent on the economy or outside sources. The thing I like about multifamily is I get to dictate the speed limit of appreciation.
Wow.
I get to dictate how fast that appreciates depending on how much I scale the rents and decrease expenses. So if I can increase income, decrease expenses, my building's worth more money. That's why I love it, man.
Wow. That's quite interesting. Now, is this something that you learned over time regarding that? That sounds like a skill to me.
Oh, buddy, did I learn it over time? So let me tell you something about anything you want to master. It takes about 10,000. They say it takes about 10,000 hours to master something. I say times that by about 3. Because here's the deal, and I don't mean that literally, but I mean that in a sense of absolutely, it's over time. This isn't something I picked up day one. I've read every book I could get my hands on, bought as much properties, failed in every way you can imagine, lost money, made money, and just figured this way out of, oh, wait, this doesn't work. People would tell me, I only buy buildings that like for me personally, I only buy buildings where I can raise the rents because that'll raise the value of the building. Well, people used to tell me, oh yeah, just buy buildings that you can raise the rents. But they didn't tell me how to know if I could actually raise the rents in that market. How do you know if a market will absorb raised rents? They didn't teach me that.
Let's stay there for a minute, because I can't tell you how many single family homes have I looked at or even bought. And every time they say, well, the rent's $900, but we can really get $1,100.
Yeah, exactly. What does that even mean, right? And they say that the rent's $900, but we can get $1,100. Well, according to what? So
who?
Or who? That's just it, right? What report tells you that? So I always look at the average rents in the area. So there's a website you can go to and actually figure. And I forgot what it is. I'll get it to you, Chris.
Okay.
But there's a website you can go to and actually find out the average market rents for a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom in the area you're looking at buying, or a studio or a 1-bedroom or whatever. And I base it off the averages. And so then I'm like, okay, it's $650, but the average is $719. I know that tells me that there are room to grow. And I always like to be a little bit above market average. I don't want to be at the market average. I want to be a little bit above because I actually want to step out and above, and I want to just beautify my property, maybe take care of the lawn a little better. I just want it to look a little nicer because I do want to charge a little bit more rent than the average. The average is $750. I want to be in that $775 to $8 range. I just want to be above market a little bit, and I've been able to do that in all of our properties because we just do a few things, just make it look a little nicer, whatever. Maybe, add some plants to the driveway, and you'd be amazed at what people like. Oh, they get a little bit better because it looks a little nicer.
Nice.
But yeah, I look at the average market rents, and that's how I know if I can get more money or not.
I'm curious. This excites me. Round up. We got 65 people on here now. For if you're just joining us, we've got Mike Fritz. Take your name off here. Mike Fritz joining us today, talking about single family homes. He is in the Cincinnati area. Been doing this for over 20 years, and I thought that he could add value because I am an amateur when it comes to single family. So let's keep this moving. Mike, I'm a lease option guy. I don't do a lot of repairs to my house. So I want to know, what is your do you have a typical tenant? What do they look like?
Yeah, good question. So we bought most of the buildings we buy already have tenants in them.
Getting rid of them?
Yeah. So no, we our goal is to not get rid of any tenants.
Okay.
But we do have to condition them because most of the buildings we buy, they're not paying market rent, they're paying below market rent. And by raising market to getting the rent to where it should be in the market, sometimes tenants go and they move to another building, and that's fine. They can do that. They might not fit where we're headed, and that's okay. But we want to make sure that the building is getting what the market is. And so there really is not a typical tenant. Of course, we do a really strong background checks with our tenants, making sure they have jobs and making sure that they're in the, making sure that they're a kind of tenant that fits, that's willing to take responsibility. You get into multifamily real estate, you do get people that like to take advantage of the system. I don't like to treat people that way because I want to just assume they're people that people aren't like that. Because I think sometimes when we assume that people are like that, they turn out that way. And so,
Always stay positive. Always.
and so I think that part of it is just saying, you know what, I want to. So there's not really a typical tenant, but I will say for us, we have some that are Section 8, and you guys, I'm sure, have known that Section 8 is where it's a government assistance to pay the rent. Sometimes the tenant pays a portion, like a smaller portion, 100, 200, 300, whatever, wherever you live in the country, they'll pay a portion, and then Section 8 or the county or the government will pay the rest of it, and usually it's a program they're on. Usually it has a time frame. It's not an indefinite program. Usually it's a year or 2 years. It's supposed to be, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes people are on it a lot longer than maybe they should be. But either way, so some are Section 8 and some are that kind of thing. But we try to buy properties that have room to grow the rents and room to decrease expenses. That's really the two things we look at. And that's how we know we can force appreciate. Let me just quickly, I want to do this because I think people find this interesting. So we just bought I drove and looked at a building a couple weeks ago.
You got some pictures there? You can share your screen.
Oh yeah. Let's
put the mic on the hot seat, y'all. Get your questions in for Mike. Some pictures. Let's see what he got.
Let me see if I can. Actually, I'm actually gonna show you. I built a PowerPoint presentation because we brought in some sweet people to be a part of this deal. Let me see if I have that too. Do I have?
If you don't have pictures, we'll just go ahead.
Oh yeah, I got it right here, my man.
So go ahead to the bottom. Oh, you know how to use StreamYard.
Yeah. So here we are. So I'm going to show this. Let me share screen. Screen. All right.
Hit it again. You got to hit it twice.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on your entire screen. Something's going on here. Let me see. Screen share was canceled. I'm going to do it one more time here.
If you got multiple monitors, you got to select that monitor.
Yeah, it's not letting me. On the second one, it's grays out the button.
Something's funky going on on your
side. There we go.
Man.
There we go. I got you. And so this is the building. Can you guys see this? Can you see this, Chris?
Dixie Way?
Yeah, so this is the building we just bought. Beautiful building.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building. It's a 6-unit building. High end. Like I'll show you some.
What does that mean, Mike?
So high end means in this area, average rents are about $850. We're getting about $1,550.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Double the rent.
Yeah, because I'll show you why. This is the side of the building. You see, it's a beautiful looking building. But look across the street. I took this picture. If you look across the street, you see there's a brand new Holiday Inn that was built.
Yeah.
And so this whole street is being built up. But like, look at some of these unit pictures.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. So these are really beautiful units. There's 2 3-bedroom units in here, and they are literally 2,000 square feet. That's the size of some houses, you know what I mean?
It's the size of my house. That's all we got.
That's what I'm saying. So there's beautiful. So this building right here, I'll stop. That's kind of the building itself, and I'll stop sharing here. That's the building itself. And so we were going, I saw that building, and my real estate agent reached out and said, "Hey, this looks like a property that would fit your portfolio." I looked at it, I'm like, "Oh, the numbers kind of work. Let me come by and look at it." Well, when I got there, I found out that the landlord is paying 100%. You heard that right, of the utilities, all the gas, all the electric, all the internet, water, trash, sewer, everything.
I mean, what is that telling you?
So what that tells me is, so that's about I think it was $18,000 a year it was costing this owner in utilities. The first thing I do when I see a multifamily building, I look, and if the owner's paying utilities, I'm like, why is he paying utilities? Maybe it's all on 1 meter, for example. Maybe there's only 1 meter. But this one had them all separate. And so I talked to the owner. I'm like, why are you paying utilities? He goes, I just want to create a kind of just a all-inclusive. Well, I don't do that for 2 reasons. Number one, when people aren't paying for electric, they leave lights on. When people aren't paying for gas, they leave things on, right? So I don't want to do that. So here's the fun thing about multifamily. If I do nothing more, if I buy this building and I bought it for $780,000, and I do nothing more than bill those utilities back to the tenants and just have the tenants pay for their own utilities. I said $18,000. Let me show you a quick calculation. So at $18,000, let's say I bring it down to $14,000. I still pay $4,000 for water and sewer, the things that everybody uses. Let's just say I bill them back $14,000. $14,000 divided by 0.098, that's $142,000 in appreciation.
Where are you getting that from, Mike?
So the way you do that is divided by 0.098. It would take me a while to explain the mathematics, but here's the point.
Make it simple for us, my brother.
Yeah, I hear. I'm gonna do this. So you take however much money you make in a year, and you take that. I'm just gonna make it easy. Let's say you're making $10,000 a year, making $10,000 a year, and you found a way to raise rents $500 a month. So you increased it to $6,000. Yep. So $16,000 a year, right? So you increased it by $6,000, your net income. You probably bought that building for, I don't know. Let's say you bought that building for $100,000 or something like that. Right. So if I increased it by $6,000, I take $6,000, I go divided by 0.098, and I just force appreciated that $61,000 because the value of the home, because remember, banks are looking at the home based on how much revenue it creates, not based on what's in the area. And so that equation will tell you how much, and by the way, that's a conservative equation. It's actually might be a little bit more than that. But so this building we just bought for $780, we're going to bump those utilities back and we're going to sell this thing. Our goal is to sell this thing at close to $1 million in 36 months.
Gotcha.
The point is, I didn't do anything, man. I just made them pay for their own utilities. I didn't have to fix anything up. I didn't have to change the view. I just had to build back utilities. That's why when I saw this building, I'm like, it's a good one. I'm going to buy it. And I made an offer within 60 minutes because I saw the value. Now, I don't want anybody to get lost in the weeds. The goal is to simply buy a property that generates more revenue than it costs you to keep. Right. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to get you caught in the weeds, but I'm telling you, I always like to say, go with the 500 rule, meaning anytime you buy a duplex 3-unit, just make sure it generates you at least a net $500 a month. Do it at $500 a month. That's a good place to start. And a good way to know if that's going to happen is you aim for what I call a 1% rule. So the 1% rule is, you want it generating 1% of the asking price per month in rent. If it's $100,000, you want to get $1,000 a month in rent. If it's $150,000, you want $1,500 a month in rent. 100%. If it's $200,000, you want $2,000 a month in rent. It's a simple equation. Now, if the expenses are really high, that number won't work at first, but you can decrease your expenses over time and equal that out. But my point in saying this, I always look for buildings I can generate about $500 a month at least. And of course, that's when I started. That's what's our goal. I said, I'm not buying a building that doesn't at least make me $500 because it isn't worth the time. And now we, of course, buy bigger buildings that generate more than that. But my point in saying that is that's a good place to start. And anyone could buy $100,000 to $150,000 duplex and find that deal.
Yeah, I'm thinking now the one duplex that I have done, that's exactly what it was. We made $1,500 a month. I mean,
yep. And how much did you buy it for?
Well, I bought it below market at 96, but I had to put 30 in it, you know.
So you're at 125, something like that, and you're making 15. That's a good deal.
Yeah,
it's a good deal.
I'm thinking, Mike. God, I got so many questions. I don't want to leave this one. Are you concerned about not being able to switch those utilities up, or did you do all that research before? Because I know
I did all the research before. And here's the thing I've realized with tenants. People expect to pay their own utilities.
Yeah, I would.
So it's a lot easier to build back utilities than to raise rents.
Gotcha.
See, people expect
raise the rent, really.
That's the thing. I don't even have to raise the rent. I just say, hey, you know what? We're going to just start making everybody pay their own utilities. And if people are like, oh, then we're going to have to move. Okay, no worries. You know, we wish you the best. And of course, I have to wait till their leases are up to do that. Yeah. I can't do that in the middle of a lease. Yeah. I have to wait till their leases are up. But when their leases are up, so that means in 1 year, theoretically, I could sell that building for $150,000 in appreciation in 1 year. Gotcha. Just get all those utilities back. Now I have to make sure that they're all rented. If I try to go on a 6-unit, if I try to sell that and there's 2 or 3 vacancies, nobody's going to be thankful for that building. So I have to make sure that I fill them with tenants that are under that structure, and then I can go to an investor, and then it'll be a pretty attractive deal.
I want to talk about management. I manage it since I do the majority of my stuff is Section 8 or lease options.
Yep, sure.
On both of them.
Yeah.
Almost, right. So,
and you're a beast at those too, man.
thankful. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you're a
so
beast at
thankful.
those, dude. Holy
Thank you,
cow.
brother. So it allows me to have free time. I
Oh,
travel, whatever. So I want to know for you. No doubt you can't manage. You can't personally manage this. Tell
oh,
me about the interaction with the property managed people.
great question. Because when I say $500 a month, I never buy a building that doesn't have margin for management ever.
Gotcha.
And you can pretty much guarantee on 10%, like most managers for smaller buildings of 2, 3, 4 units, 5 units, they're going to charge you about 10% of the gross rent. So if you're getting $1,000 a month, they're going to charge you $100 to manage it.
Gotcha.
With a couple other fees in there, they charge a little bit to change over a tenant if a tenant moves out.
Mhm.
But all that to say, yeah, I have managers. I own properties in 2 and now 3 states, and I have a manager in each state. And we're getting to the point where we're just in 2000, hopefully this year, we're going to hire an asset manager, and we'll have a manager manage those property managers. Currently, that's me.
You manage the managers.
I manage the managers because they still need management. Because one of my property managers in South Bend, where I own a lot of property, my property manager manages 300 units. So they manage a lot of property. So I need to make sure that my properties are staying top of mind. So I'm on the phone. But here's the deal. I just got a portfolio of 23 units that I switched over to them in South Bend, and now these 6, so almost 30 units to them. And so I talk to them about once a week. But think about this: 23 units. I can live anywhere in the country. I don't live in Indiana. I can live anywhere in the country, and I spend about an hour a week talking to my manager. 4 hours a month to my manager, and maybe a couple 10-minute calls here and there, but call it 8 hours a month for a 20, 30 unit portfolio. Think about that, how much scale there is in that amount of time.
You're right. That scale is a big thing that I'm looking for at this part of my life.
Absolutely.
But Mike, I want to talk to you about skill. Nobody is that's why I like talking to you about managing. Earning money is so different from managing it, right?
Oh, goodness sakes. What a quote that is, brother.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. I don't
Such a good point, though. Such a good point, right?
Skills, right? Different skills. I mean, I'm such a big teacher and proponent of managing what you have. Now, you have to manage the managers. That is skill. How in the heck are we learning that skill, Mike? Because that has nothing to do with managing the property. You're managing the managers.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where it's weird when you go into real estate to learn leadership.
Wow.
But I'm telling you, that's where it's at. I learned that if I was gonna scale, because my goal is to scale to 5,000 units. That's my goal, is to get to 5,000 units. And so to get to 5,000 units, that's a portfolio in the hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a big deal, right? But I'm not even anywhere near that goal yet. Mm-hmm. And so not even in the same universe. But I know the only way I get there is my leadership. My leadership is the ceiling of my growth. And so I've got to grow my leadership ability and my ability to keep people motivated, keep people encouraged. Because you know what? Property managers have discouraging days too. Yeah. And so I need to come alongside. Hey, you guys are doing a great job. I'm really thankful for you guys. I need to send them. My wife was just telling me yesterday, we should just send our property managers a fruit basket and tell them thank you for your good work. Nice. And just that kind of stuff. It'd be amazed at just, hey, at the end of a call when they're like, oh, we're turning this unit and this unit. And at the end, I'll be like, hey, and just, thank you. I just want to tell you that I appreciate you, because managing managers is more than just, you want to find a good one. By the way, the biggest mistake I ever made in multifamily real estate was I hired a bad property manager. It cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. And the mistake I made was I was young and stupid and didn't know what questions to ask. In fact, I hired a property manager that didn't even live in the state where my properties were.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, you can tell how rookie-ish I was. And so it cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. But my point in saying that is, I've learned over the years asking managers, what do you do when this happens? How do you make sure that my properties are treated like your properties? How do you make sure when you have this many properties that all my tenants are cared for? Because let me tell you, sometimes people in multifamily real estate talk about tenants like, oh, tenants are a necessary evil. My friends, tenants pay our bills. They are the most beautiful thing in the business. Oh, and so we want to take care of and love our tenants and make sure their families are safe and that they're cared for. And that's how we treat our tenants. Are our gold, man. They pay our bills. And we want to make
right.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it, man. We work for our tenants, right? And so so I want to make sure that, so I'm asking property manager questions. What do you do here? How do you do this? Are you willing to work on a sliding scale? Meaning, if we are so and so profitable at the end of the year, you get a bonus versus just paying a higher commission on the front end. And I've learned to do that over the years. But managing a manager is a leadership skill. It's about reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, or reading books like, the Next Gen Leader is a great book by Andy Stanley. And he just talks about in your business. Chris, you and I Chris was just on my podcast, Power of Real Estate, and Chris talked about, he's really good, and he is at raising money. He's just a killer at raising money because that's what he's good at. Andy Stanley talks in leadership of only do what only you can do. In your business, you find out what you're good at and stick in that lane. I found out I make my money in leadership, deal flow, and money. 3 categories. So I want to lead my team. I need to keep money flowing, and I need to find deals. Now, finding deals, I've since farmed that out to, I have agents and I have hunters and I have people looking for deals constantly. And so that I'm just focused on money and people. That's all I focus on.
Money and people.
And that's my management, managing my managers and making sure I'm touching in. But, that skill is everything to do with just every Monday and Wednesday I check in. I mean, how simple is that? I send them in. Hey, my manager's Trisha. Hey, Trisha, how you doing this morning? Hope everything's going well. How we doing on these properties and this one? How are rent collections coming with COVID, and how are we doing? Because we're filming this in the middle of COVID, obviously, right? Yeah. And so I'm just checking in. How we doing? And she's going back. So it's a couple emails, man. It's not rocket science, but it just takes a little bit of pressure and a little bit of constant presence.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I know people are going to want to know. I want to talk about COVID as we hopefully are coming to some type of understanding. And I want to talk about the money. But let me reintroduce you one more time. Mike Fritz on the Roundup channel. Please get your questions in the box. And if you watch this at another time, you can always put your questions down in the video description. Mike will come back and answer them as well. Mike is a single family expert, and I asked him just to come on, just to share some of his knowledge on single family investing, to demystify. A lot of us think that, even for me, I think like it's just Mount Everesting, and we're going to talk about some of the money aspects of it too, Mike. Is that okay?
Absolutely. And you mean multifamily real estate investing?
What did I say?
See, you said single family. I just want to make sure we're talking about single. Chris is so ingrained in single. He crushes it in the single family space. I get it, man. You're knocking it out of the ball single family all day, man.
You're right. The multifamily properties. Please, sorry about that.
No problem at all. I just want people to know that you're the king at single family, man.
Multifamily. COVID. I'm doing Section 8. I haven't missed a beat. Mike, I want to know. Tell me about. Give us a 40,000 foot view of what it's done for you.
Good question. So this is what I hope this doesn't kick people off. But let me tell you something right now. This is why I don't like to listen to the news. What most people won't tell you is July, 0.25% higher rent was collected July 2020 than July 19.
Get out of here.
So people won't tell you that. People won't go back on it and say, oh, we're about collecting the same. Now, is that because of the stimulus check? Is it because that maybe it could be the stimulus check, but I'm just saying that rents were down in April and they snapped right back in June. And they were good in July. And guess what? They've been good so far. Now we're only 11 days in, but they've been good so far in August. And here's when people say, but should we stop investing? Because of COVID, we don't know what's going to happen. Here's the thing. There's a couple asset classes I would not invest in right now. For example, I just had a guy call me today on student housing. I wouldn't get in student housing because I don't know what's going to happen with colleges.
I know they already, my college just said they're going virtual.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm like, I don't know that I'd get into student housing for sure. But let me tell you what I do know. People are always going to need a place to live. And this is what when I watched the 08-09 crash, I just watched it from a distance. I didn't have any money. I was making $37,000 a year as a teacher, and I was broke. And so I actually watched an 18-unit deal come for sale next to me for $184,000, but I couldn't buy it because I had no money. And I just saw on the LoopNet, which is a place I look for properties. That place is for sale for $1.1 million today. And I couldn't buy it because I didn't have any money. Right. And I didn't know what Chris knows, and I didn't know how to raise it, or else I'd have gone out and raised it. I didn't know what to do. I was clueless. Right. And so, but in 08-09, I just watched it from the sidelines, and I watched what asset classes survived the best. What I saw was multifamily survived really well. And here is why. People that lost their homes became renters.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was we had more renters in America in 2008, 2009 than we've ever had. We are quickly becoming a renter nation, meaning multifamily is going to become more valuable over time. If we think,
especially with this young generation.
You got it. Millennials don't want to own. They want to travel and they want to be transient, man. So having a place that, one of the reasons why I this building I showed you guys I really liked is it has a millennial edge to it. So it kind of has just that hip millennial edge. And I feel like, oh, this is good for the younger, like 30 to 50 range people that just kind of want kind of a cool modern place to live but are professionals, but are pros, right? And so I say all that to say, multifamily survived. So when people talk to me about COVID, has it affected rents? Yeah, it affected us in April, and but guess what? We've picked all that money back up because we just created a payment plan for our people. We can't evict them because the government said no, which I don't want to evict my people yet anyway. I want to make sure, I want to work with them. So we said, here's the deal. We don't want to kick you out, but we do want to make sure that we can set you up on a payment plan. One of our tenants works at I was talking to our manager at the airport. Well, the airport's nobody's traveling, right? Mm-hmm. So she lost her job. And so we're just working with her and got her on some programs. And now she's looking for another job, but we were able to work with her. But we've collected most of all of that rent. And so when people say, well, COVID's freaking us out, let's not buy it. Well, if you can't buy at any time, you most likely won't buy at any time. And so if you can't buy, you won't. And here's what I mean. Do you know that there were people flipping houses in 2008 and 2009 when everybody said you shouldn't be doing it? Bingo. Yeah. And Chris, were you making any money?
I was making money.
That's my point, right? Oh, but that's the real estate crash. It was the biggest real estate crash in my lifetime. And you were still flipping houses. But that's my point. We were just buying them cheaper and selling them cheaper, right? And so the point is, it still worked. So when people point to COVID, my thing is, here's the deal. We have to get outside. We're in real estate. We're not in a something that is a fad. We're in housing, people. We're in people that we are truly in what people need, not just luxury. Now, if I was in the RV or the boat market where people might be scaling back on their toy purchases, I might be a little bit nervous. But we're in housing, man. So we are in what people need. So COVID, to me, it doesn't scare me that much. And by the way, I'm buying a property right now and I'm looking at 2 more. So for me, I'm not slowing down. I want to lean into this. And as more people fearful and pull back, I want to gobble up those deals because I'm leaning in. So the more news we listen to about the doom of the world, the more it creates fear in our mind. And we have to remember, man, people need a place to stay and they need some good owners like you guys to be able to come along and offer them that.
We're at 40 minutes. We've got 95 people on here, Mike. I want to turn it over
Bingo.
to I got so many questions. Mike, do you have to remind yourself? Let me ask you, I have to remind myself constantly when people are going to the left, I go to the right. When they go to the left.
Yeah.
Do you remind yourself that?
I not only do I remind myself of that, I try to be in a network that helps remind me of that. Like I had a buddy of mine who's a physical therapist in Denver. And in 2003, all the laws changed for physical therapists in Denver. And I mean, most people went out of business. He expanded, and that was the way he made his first $1 million. And now he's got 12 practices, incredibly successful businessman. But he told me that about this time. He says, just remember, Mike, when people retreat, you attack.
Retreat, attack.
You know what I mean?
I have to remind I'm like, when I get a hit, because obviously you're a businessman, we get hits.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have to just remind. I'm thinking about Warren Buffett. I'm just thinking about the winners, man. We always run to the smoke. We don't want to be from the smoke.
That's right. And I mean, it's kind of like Napoleon Hill said, we want to burn all bridges of retreat. We can't go backwards, man. Retreat, regrouping and kind of picking and pivoting. I would say, let's pivot. That's we always do that. I pivot on every deal sometimes.
Even on good days, good deals.
Yeah, man. And so I mean, so we pivot all. I mean, I've gotten into deals where I'm like, I'd get to inspection, I'm like, dude, I'm pivoting. This ain't a good deal. We're going back out of this one. Yeah. And so we definitely pivot. But we don't go backwards. Pivoting is not going backwards, man. Gotcha. We keep it going forward. But I'll tell you, there are days when I need to be reminded why I'm doing it. Just like everybody else, man. Hit discouragement hits. We gotta keep in it. That's why we need people like this.
Yeah, cool. I got one more question, and I'm gonna turn it over. Matter of fact, let's go ahead. I'll let them do a queue, so I don't just back them all up because
Let's do it.
I want to talk about money because I'm gonna. Matter of fact, now that we're talking about money roundup, I'm gonna announce it now. Tomorrow, I will do a private money masterclass. So make sure you've hit the button to subscribe and hit that bell. So I will open up the registration tonight, and I'm gonna give you my private lending perspectives. I'm gonna give you a huge deal on that because I think now is the best time to be raising money. People are
Ooh,
throwing it around, and I'm gonna unleash Mike on that in a minute. Let me get to a question. I see you-
absolutely. Bring it.
see. She's got a good question, Miss Maria Mendoza. Hey, I always wanted to buy a duplex when I was looking at FHA financing in 15. They had no multifamily units available in the areas she was looking in. Mike, does she have to open up her mental horizon? Go ahead, you would attack that.
Yeah, great question. So, I don't know. Maybe there's still, maybe there's not. If you're looking in an area where where multi-units, there's not a lot of multi-units, then yeah, I mean, you're limited by what's there unless you're going to build it, right? But I'm always looking and seeing if you are looking at it, if you're going to do an FHA loan, you have to occupy at least one of the units. So if you're going to do FHA, it has to be for a primary residence. So you have to occupy one of the units. Now you can legally move out, but you have to buy it with the intention of living in it. And I think even there's a statement where you don't have to move in, but the intention when you buy it has to be that you were planning on moving in. If somebody bought a house and then they got pregnant and they needed a bigger place or whatever, they allow room to pivot for that. But the plan is you have to live in it. So if you're going to buy a duplex with FHA, you got to live in it. But as to the point, yeah, we might have to expand where you're looking. If there's no properties there, we got to go to places. We got to go where the fish are for sure.
Do you have a problem with that, Mike? I mean, I know you told me you've got stuff everywhere.
Yeah, in fact, I actually don't buy where I live. Ironically, I'm looking where I live. I live in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is actually one of the most. It's actually one of the best Midwestern multifamily markets, just by growth. This Indianapolis and ironically Columbus. Whoa, Columbus is a good market. Yeah, Columbus is a good market.
There's affordable stuff there, right?
What's that?
Affordable stuff there, correct?
Yeah, there's affordable stuff, and the thing that turned me on to Columbus, dude, is Columbus is in the last 20 years has never decreased in population.
Really?
Yeah, it continues to go up. It's just a good area. It's not a lot of people know that. So, but all that to say, yeah, so Columbus is a good area. So I buy in states I don't live in. So buy anywhere. You just have to have a team or know somebody maybe that lives in an area where you can ask them about the area, because you want to make sure if you're going to buy an area you're not familiar with, you at least get familiarized with the area. So you make sure you buy in a neighborhood that suits what you're looking for.
Gotcha. Mike, we're at 100 people here watching Roundup. Thank you so much. We got Mike Fritz on here talking about multifamily investing, one of the subjects. I'm being transparent. I'm not an expert in that, so I want to surround myself with the people that are doing it. Thank you so much for coming on. Get your questions in. Rhonda, thanks for sharing. You are welcome. Thank you, Mike, for sharing.
Thank you, Rhonda, for being here.
Gene, well, we went over that about the COVID thing. We just touched that. That's a Gene.
No.
Yep. Daniel, I live in the Northeast. Yes. Where the market is heavy on 3-family. I'm presuming that's going to be those row houses that are almost like brownstones.
Yeah.
I placed several offers but can't compete with other investors. How can I compete when your only leverage is the FHA loan? Here we go again with that.
Yeah, that FHA loan. Yeah. So you could buy, now I don't know what your current living situation is. You could buy one of them, move into one of the units, especially if you're going to do with an FHA loan. But if you are, I will say this, the hardest part about this market currently is not the deals. It's the deals are a little bit harder to get. So I look at, and the deals, say that again.
Is that because of financing, Mike? Because the interest rates are so low?
No, it's exactly because the interest rates are so low, it puts more investors buying. So when interest rates go down, so does inventory, because more buyers buy when interest rates are down. So it depletes the inventory, right? And it creates a higher demand. So what will normalize our market in this whole COVID thing is when interest rates start to climb, that's when the inventory will climb with it. But that being said, competing with investors, I'm not going to lie, it's just a game. You have to just keep asking. And by the way, here's the way you compete with investors. You listen to Chris and you apply all his off-market stuff to multifamily. Yeah. You know what? Go find one that no investor knows exists, and maybe it's a little bit distressed and you have to put a little money. By the way, the good thing about an FHA loan is they will fund renovations. And And so maybe you go find a multifamily that people don't even know is for sale, and you get a list. You go to List Source or some of these places, find a list of multifamily owners, and reach out to them and ask if they'd be interested in selling if the numbers made sense. And instead of compete with because anytime something goes on market, you compete with everybody. But if it's off market, you don't have a lot of competition. Keep it quiet that you're talking to people but start talking to off market. So you could apply what Chris is doing to find off market deals to the multifamily space, so you have less competition with investors.
You know what? Everybody seems to have the FHA loan on their mind. Let's go ahead and segue, since we do have 95 people, so many people on here now, Mike. Let's talk about the financing. Give us a 40,000 foot view of what your financing looks like.
Yeah. So we finance. So if you're 5 units and above, you go with, you'll have a commercial lender because it's a commercial building. If you're 4 units and below, you can use conventional, residential loans like FHA, the ARM loan, which is an adjustable rate mortgage, which I don't suggest. I don't like those loans at all. FR loans, which is those fixed rate loans, which is just a normal loan. There's investor loans where you can go and you can get like a fixed rate investor loan. Those ones, the problem with those loans is they ask if it's an investment property, that a lot of times they'll want 25% down. And so if you're going to buy $200,000 property, you have to have at least 50,000 in capital. But if you come to Chris's class tomorrow, find him 50,000 in capital, he'll tell you how to do that. And so this is what a lot of people don't know. When I buy a $780,000 building, I don't raise 780. I raise 300 and get a commercial loan on the rest. Okay. And so a lot of people think that I raise all the money. No. In fact, that's how I get such high cash on cash returns, because I'm only putting up 300 and getting investors for 300, and I go get a bank to finance the rest.
Gotcha.
And so that's one thing for commercial. Residential, you can use FHA, fixed rate. You can even do what's called a HELOC, if you've ever heard of that, HELOC, which is home equity line of credit. Maybe you own a home, maybe you have $100,000 in equity, and you can only pull out a portion. They won't let you pull out 100% of that equity. But let's say you pull out 70%. So you take 70 of that 100,000, and you can take 70,000 and put towards that down payment of that $200,000 building or whatever. And you can go and you can buy another building. I recently did this. I had a property that was paid for. And by the way, paid for properties, it doesn't do you any good. Especially as cheap as money is right now. You want to suck that money out of those buildings for a home equity line and go invest it in something else, because money's so cheap right now. So that's home equity line of credit, and you can pull money out of equity you have. And then there's a refinance loan. You can pull money out of what you have of equity, but the HELOC and the refinance are a little different. HELOC, you pull it out and it goes into an account, and you can take a draw on that account, and you only pay interest on the money you pull out. Refinance, you're going to pay interest on the whole loan on day one, whether you're using it or not. So that's why a HELOC's a little bit better than a refinance.
Better be ready. Let me tell you what we did, Mike. I paid my real estate off, and then I just put private lenders on all my stuff. So I've got
there you go,
lines with private people, and they just finance. But Mike, how does that look when you have to raise 300,000? Are you like, do you have people waiting?
Yeah, good question. So when I started doing this, I made a list. I have what I call my sphere list. It's my sphere of influence. And I just went to a Google Doc, and I just keep a running list of people that I know that may be interested in investing if the time ever came right and they had the capital. And so then when a building comes for sale, and I'm like, okay, and I do the numbers, I need to raise whatever, 200, 300,000. So I go to my list. All right. And then I send a text, and literally I'll read a text to you. I sent this text. So I sent this text to a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago. So I put this. Hey man, I hope you're doing well. Wanted to run something by you. I'm getting ready to put in an offer in a 6-unit high-end building. This is the one I showed you guys. A 6-unit high-end building, and thought of you. I'm opening it up to investors this week. Would you be interested in having a conversation about it? If it's something you're interested in, great. If not, no worries at all. Literally, that's my text. And I send that. It's nonchalant. It's non-desperate. It's just, you know what I mean?
Not begging.
No, I'm just like, hey, I've got this opportunity. If it's something that fits you, great. By the way, that guy, that specific person, he was right in the middle of trying to sell a property. So he's like, oh man, if this sells, I'd love to. His property didn't sell in time. We ended up getting that property funded. And now he came back and he's like, do you have anything available? And I'm going to find a property for his money. And so that's the beautiful thing when you do send to a text. A no doesn't always mean no. It just means not now.
Yeah.
And so you want to keep that. That's why I love keeping that list of people that are possibilities. So that's how I do it.
I cannot wait for you to do some training on this stuff, Mike. Gene, if you were just starting out, Mike,
Yes, correct.
current economy, what type of units, single duplex, would you focus on investing in first?
Great question. Great question. So it really depends on your capital situation. So I don't go by number of units. I go by how good the deal is. So sometimes a duplex might be netting you more money than a 12 unit. If the 12 unit's poorly managed and the expenses are really high and they're not collecting rents and it's just in bad shape, it might be losing money, where a duplex might be making you $500 a month. So the number of units isn't as important as how much money the deal is making. So for me, and it's your capital situation. Obviously, a 4-unit is usually going to be more money than a duplex. But I mean, if you're buying a duplex in New York City versus a duplex in Cincinnati, Ohio, or versus a 4-unit in Cincinnati, Ohio, I'm still going to be cheaper. But my point in saying that is it depends on where you're at on that. But it just depends on the deal. So I always tell people, start off small, get a duplex, 3-unit, 4-unit in that range, a 2 to 4 unit. There are some investors that will tell you go big or go home. I think that is a horrible philosophy.
Grant card.
Yeah, GC, man. He's like, man, and I'm not there, man. I'm like, no, you got to get your muscle. You don't go to the gym the day one and try to max out on 315 pounds, man. You're gonna die. And so I'm like, no, don't do that.
No, yeah. I hear him say that all the time. I'm like, this dude's crazy.
He is crazy. I know. And when you're him, you have to understand why he's saying that. He's trying to get people to invest in Cardone Capital, and he's trying to make people think that doing anything else is stupid and just invest in them. So you have to understand he's a salesman first. But no, don't go big or go home. A 2 to 4 units a great place to start.
All right. Good question. Round up. Get your questions in for Mike on multifamily investing. I want to talk about people that are scared to death like I was. I'm good at single families, but I get scared. We'll get to me later.
Yeah, great questions here, Chris.
What is this? Question. JC, what is your cash on cash return benchmark for multifamily housing, Mike?
That is a unbelievable question. Okay, so my cash on cash is...
Frame that up for round. I want make sure my round up family knows what that means first.
Yeah,
so you can
totally. So cash on cash return is the amount of cash you have to put into a deal and the amount of cash you get out of a deal. So for example, I told you,
is that when you say the amount of cash you put in, just make sure we're going to understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah, no, great question. So great point, Chris. So like, let's say whether I go get, if I'm have to raise $100,000 for a deal, and whether I have 10,000, I have to go raise 90, or I have all 100, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I just have $100,000. The
cash needed for the deal.
Cash needed for the deal. And the building is $300,000. So I put in $100,000. So then let's say I make, so it's $300,000. Let's say I make 12 grand a year. I net out, well, let's say 10,000 a year. I net out 10,000 a year.
Net out. Hold on, Mike. Net out. That's going to be. I don't want to lose me or my round up homie.
No, you're good. I'm just gonna.
Net out is what your profit is after everything.
Yeah. So actually, let's go with this. Let's go with 20. I think out of building that, let's say we net, if we put in 300,000. If we put in 100,000 to the deal, and it's a $300,000 building, and I net 10,000 a year, meaning I net about about 800 a month.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's say I net $10,000 a year. So I take $10,000, and remember, what did I put into the deal? 100. So I go 10,000 divided by 100. That's a 10% cash on cash return, because I get 10% on my money every single year.
That's a good day, right?
Yep, that's a good day, man. That's a good day. Now, so now that's what cash on cash is. Now, what my benchmark is, that's a little bit more difficult question, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes I go into a deal where there's zero cash on cash because I know I'm going to be able to force appreciate the building a ton.
Current cash on cash.
Current cash on cash. So with the day I enter the deal, let's say maybe I enter the deal and it's zero, nobody's making any money. And I tell my investors, hey, we're not going to make any money for the first year, but give us a year to stabilize this property and get rents where they should be. And then we're going to get utilities lower and we're going to sell this building and everybody's going to be happy in 2 years. You know, so cash on cash, there is no benchmark. If it's a low, then I need to have a reason to buy a property with low cash on cash, meaning I can appreciate the building and sell it for more money. Now, again, guys, I want to just peel back the curtain for just a second and just take a break because we're talking so stinking much stuff right now. I want to take a deep breath. And when you have to worry about two things: find deals, find money. Find deals, find money. So if you're looking for a 2 to 4 unit deal, you're looking at two things: expenses, income. You need to make sure that your expenses is bigger, or your expenses is less than the money you make. And then I like to have $5,000 or $500 a month. So you take all your expenses, you lay them all out. You take all of your income, you lay that out. Make sure you have at least $500 a month. And that, just because I don't want anybody getting into a deal that's going to lose you money right away. And so that's how you start. And so you go to a real estate agent, you go online, you say, hey, give me any deal you have in this price range, 2 to 4 units, and you start looking through deals. Because I'm telling you, we're talking about a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure you just keep it simple enough to say, we got to find deals and find money.
It can be a little overwhelming. And I'm like, even for me, I can imagine what my roundup homies are thinking. I'm like, for me, I'm like, Well, my thing is, Mike, you're going to help eventually. You're working on something to help hold our hands through this thing, right? We're going to get, I hope, well, I didn't ask you, but would you mind coming back on once you get everything situated and see what you can offer us? Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're in the middle of putting together a program that goes through all this to make sure people don't get lost.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, in this program too, I threw in this deal analyzer I created. It's a spreadsheet where you literally can put in all the numbers and it just tells you what your cash on cash is.
Oh,
and it does it for you. That way you don't have to pull out the calculator and know all this stuff. I've done it for you. So I want to make sure that I can hold your hand through this. Absolutely.
Back on then. Lisa wants to know, you're speaking her language. Oh, she said
Lisa. Awesome. I love that.
Round up, get your
I want to know what her language was. What were we speaking that was her language?
I don't know if it's says, multifamily is what she
okay. Oh, definitely multifamily. Yeah. There you go.
Well, we're passing 100 people here, Mike. You must be saying something that's worth listening to. Golden Butterfly, is the multi-level investing A, B, or C level? What is that?
Okay, good question. So let me just define that. So when you have A, B, C, and actually D level, these are grades for the area. Like if it's an A level area, it's mainly all homeowners in pretty good houses. B level area is mostly homeowners, some rentals, but mostly homeowners in decent areas. C level is a lot of rentals. D level is a really depressed area. Right. And by the way, we say Class D properties stand for Class Don't. Because we don't really like those D. And by the way, you know what's interesting on Class D properties? I'll tell all of you to make sure. Class D properties look great on spreadsheets.
On paper.
They look awesome on paper because you apply out the deal and you're like, man, this deal's making great. I just got a guy that called me today, literally. I should play the message for you because it's so funny. But he talked to me. I talked to him about a year ago about buying his property. Well, he had some bad tenants, and so he was a distressed seller. He's like, I just want to sell this property. I'm like, great. What do you want for it? He wanted to sell me a 3-unit for $55,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's making $1,900 a month. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, so I looked at the area. Well, that's why. It's a D area. It's a D area, depressed. Most people are either on assistance, don't have jobs. And I'm not saying that because we all need help at certain times. I'm not down in that, but I'm just saying, like, you get into areas where nobody has jobs. It makes it harder to make the area. The area reflects that. Let's just say it that way.
It's harder to make it raise the appreciate.
Yeah, and it can make it harder to force appreciate the property. Absolutely. And so I'll tell you this. My target is C-level properties because C-level you can get for good prices and they sell well. In fact, a lot of investors, they make their living on C properties because C properties are great plays.
Nice. That's where we are. Price and Pride, a 400 square foot flat in Seattle is $2,000 for a one bedroom, one bath.
One bed, one bath. That's well, you're in Seattle, man. Seattle is a high rent district.
Yeah.
New York City, Palo Alto, down in the valley, Silicon Valley, and you go down, you know, those are high rent districts for sure.
That's not a question. Mike, has COVID temporary? Roxy, how has COVID temporary relief programs affected your rental business?
Yeah, good question. So here's the thing. So because my real estate business is all contractors, I don't get I didn't apply for the PPP loan, so it didn't help me internally from that perspective. Now, has the assistance helped my tenants? Maybe the reason we're seeing not rents fall off is because of those assistant programs. That's tough to know, but I know it's helped some.
Gotcha.
And we may be going into a few months coming up in the fall where it's a little bit harder. We need to work with tenants a little more when those programs fall off. But we'll do that. So it's again, COVID. A lot of people talk about COVID, and here's what I say: people talk about COVID. I talk about multifamily.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is people want to, the COVID is just the environment now. In 2008 and 9, that's what they talked about is the real estate crash. In 2001, they talked about the .com crash. They're always talking about something that is impacting how we should buy real estate. Now, it should impact how you buy, not if you buy.
Got it.
Right.
Good point, brother. Good point. Kenny Dunn. Hey, Kenny, he wants to know, how do you get the non-traditional financing?
How do you get non-traditional? Well, if you're talking about like hard money lenders or private money financing, or because obviously he's not talking about bank money. So private money is relationships, or hard money lenders. You just have to know hard money lenders are usually regional. They loan in certain areas of the country. So you find somebody that's lending in an area that is that you're buying in, or you find somebody like Chris who knows how to get money, and you find a good deal and you bring it to him. You partner with somebody like that. But if you get non-traditional financing, you just simply have to know those people, which is hard money. You can literally Google hard money lenders in XYZ area and you'll get a list of them. Start calling them. That's how I did it. I literally went to Google and said hard money lenders, Michigan, because I flip houses in Michigan. And I picked up the phone and started calling them, talking to some of their officers, say, okay, this is what I do. Boom, 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 boom. And just so that's for hard money. Private money is relationships and just talking to people, tell people what you're doing, and start asking them if they'd like to be partners in your deals. And for your first couple deals, I would say partner with people, don't loan money from people, because that way there's more incentive for them to come in on the deal, because there's a little bit more risk if you're just starting out.
Yeah, don't be borrowing, Kenny. I don't know what your level of experience is, but don't be borrowing Ma and Pa's money on your first deal. You know I love you, Kenny. Even for me, like even with Kenny saying there's less risk when you got multiple people in the deal, and then you have other we call it a second eyes opinion. When someone else is looking over it and they have the capital, they're going to make sure that you don't make a mistake. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to hear no grandma calling me. Need
a mentor, man.
Gene, how do you search to find the hot areas that you want to invest in?
Right? This is good. I'm going to make it. This is probably the easiest thing I'm going to tell you all day. Follow jobs. It's what you do. Just follow job growth. Where are people working? And if look where Amazon's building their next building, which by the way, over by Seattle, is one of them. Look where Walmart's setting up new quarters. Look where Apple's building whatever. You follow job and population growth. That's what we do. That's the easiest way to do it, is just go and follow population and job growth.
Gotcha. Joe Hernandez, how you doing, my friend? Joe Lee. What do you mean FHA has a funding or has funding? Can you further elaborate on that?
Funding or has funding? Can you mean has a fund or has? Well, let me just FHA first of all is Federal Housing Administration, and its purpose was to get people into homes with less money down. Usually they're 3.5% or 5 to 10% depending on your credit score. If you've got at least the 640 and above, you're going to get 3.5%. If it's below that, they're going to scale you up because they see you as a higher risk. That's just objective fact. And so an FHA loan, you can only have one FHA loan at a time. So if you take out an FHA loan on a multifamily building, there's two stipulations. One, it can only be you can only have one at a time, and two, you have to have the intention of moving into that multifamily building. Which, by the way, if some of you are willing to change your living situations, it's a great way to get into multifamily because you can get into it with less money and then move out of it. This is what I say: move into it, get it renting, get it paying for itself, move out and get out of it in a year or so, fill that other room, and now you have a cash producing property. But most people aren't willing to do that. They're like, I don't want to move. And I'm like, man, what are you willing to do to get into the game?
I love it. I love it.
So FHA funding, that's just
real right there. Shit, that's no risk. You're not even paying for your own mortgage.
I'm telling you, I'm moving out to Phoenix, Arizona. I'm buying a $500,000 home. People are like, wow, $500,000. Let me tell you something. I bought a house. I actually bought a house with a guest house in it. So it's kind of a duplex. I'm going to Airbnb that thing. I ain't paying my mortgage. It's such an easy thing, man. I ain't paying my mortgage. I'm Airbnb that other side out or rent that other side out. And it's going to pay almost my entire mortgage. So there's such low risk. So FHA, and by the way, we're doing an FHA loan on that property.
Oh, wow. Cool. Round up, family. If you're just joining us, we've been on here for about an hour with Mike Fritz talking about multifamily. I'll let you get some water, Mike. I know you've been going.
Oh, man. Thank you, brother.
Round up, get your questions in for Mike. We'll stay here. We took an hour and a half off just to kind of share with you because this is actually the first time I bought a multifamily investor on here. This is priceless information. Get your questions in for Mike Fritz. Kenny, no place. Rhonda Genesis, what is the best way for a new business to get financing for property if you don't want to personally guarantee, Mike?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to be just straight. You're probably going to have to personally guarantee it unless you have somebody else who will.
Partner? Yeah,
unless a partner will come on and guarantee the property. You will have to personally guarantee. I still personally guarantee my properties because lenders, if they're going to loan you $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, they want to know that somebody's good for it. And so now if you have a business with a track record, now you said a new business, so I'm assuming it's a brand new business, no track record, maybe the business itself has no credit score, if you will. I know it's not necessarily a FICO score for a business, but they want to see you don't have any track record. Somebody's got to guarantee that loan. And sometimes there are actually, they call them sponsors out there. Well, they use the word sponsor for a lot of things, but there are people that actually charge like 5 or 10% equity in a deal to put their name on the loan with people. And so they come on the loan with people. Now they vet you to do that to make sure you're good for the money too. But yeah, most of us have to personally guarantee those buy and hold properties because they're the same as investments.
This is the 70% that you're borrowing, or you're referring to, Michael?
Yeah, correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, correct. You got it.
You got it there. I know there are some other ways. We have a guy that does business credit lines, but I don't know if they're going to be those $300,000-$400,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rich Casio, do you sell your properties once you have
pushed the value
up? Good.
Great question. So we have I never buy a property without an exit plan. And so we have a 3 to 5 year exit plan for all of our properties. Now, exit plan doesn't always mean selling. So let's say, watch this. I just raised $300,000. Let's say I force appreciate that building that I just told you guys about, $300,000. I sell it off. I sell it off. I take the money, give my investors money back. They make money. We're good. Because remember, I sell it off. They get all their money back and some. Now think about this for a minute. Or it's worth $300,000 more now. I go to the bank and I refinance it, and then I pay my investors off all the money they've put into the deal and maybe deplete their equity a little bit. And so I've refinanced it. Now I own more of the building and I don't sell it, but I've kind of sold it. I've sucked all the value out of it, the appreciation. And now I just get that monthly cash flow every month and my investors are already paid off. That's one play. Or the second play is to just sell off the building. So the answer is yes and no. It depends on the deal. If the deal is a really good cash producing deal, then it's like, man, it generates good cash every month. I don't really want to let this go. I'll refinance it, pay off my investors with a healthy, never less than 15% return. And then I'll just hold on to the building, because when I write the contract, I'm the one on the loan, not my investors. So I get to do with that loan what I want, but I always make sure my investors get a better return than they'll get anywhere else. So because I want them, when I pay them off, what do I want them to do with that money? I want them to keep it with me, and I want to go buy another building with it. I don't want to give that money back. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to I was going to say we're going to 1031 exchange this. Have you ever talked about the 1031 on here, Chris?
No, I don't. No.
So 1031 is just basically when you sell a building, the government gives you 180 days. If you take your proceeds and you buy another building within 181 days, you don't have to pay property gains tax on that, or capital gains tax. So you don't have to pay taxes on that. And the cool thing with multifamily real estate is we buy it to hold anyway. So you can roll that money in, and you can actually keep rolling money over and defer taxes, not pay taxes on those buildings, and still generate good cash. So sometimes I sell it, sometimes I keep it.
Gotcha. Rich wants to know, what are the closing costs on, say, a 12-unit building? Mike?
Yeah, closing costs are, closing costs are about 0.5%. So if you're like on this building, in the 700 to 900,000 million, we have about 10,000 in closing costs, but that includes closing costs, and it also includes an appraisal and an inspection. Because an appraisal and an inspection on a multifamily is not $400. It's usually anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000.
Like $2,000. Cheap.
Yeah.
So our way one time too. So
yeah, right. And so so the closing costs are usually about 0.5%, but then you have to add on your appraisal and your inspection, which I always say, always do an inspection.
Yep. Eric wants to know, how do you identify a good deal, such as the asking price versus the income?
Good question. So again, it all is about that cash on cash return. I'm always looking for a good return for myself and my investors. I like to never go below 6 or 7% to start. That's kind of like where I like to start. But as I said earlier, it depends. I can take a 0 cash on cash return if I'm going to appreciate that building and sell it off. Okay. So when some people say, how do I identify a good deal? For 2 ways. Either it makes me money in the passive income with all the rents, or I can force appreciate it and sell it for more money. So a good deal allows me to do one or two of those, ideally both of those.
Nice.
So money every month, or money when I sell, ideally both. Gotcha. That's how I identify a good deal.
Marketing. Ryan, how should you calculate the return when bringing house hacking into this? If you don't live there, should you charge yourself market rents?
Oh, good question. Good question. Yeah. So how do you identify the value of a deal if it's if you're house
hacker, you do live there?
Yeah. If your house hack, that's why I don't understand. And as if you don't live there.
As if you don't live there. Okay.
And so maybe it's 2 separate questions. So
he's saying, I guess, as if you do, you calculate it as if you don't live there.
Yeah. So before you buy it, you calculate it as if you don't. So yes, I calculate the building. What would it make if I was to rent both sides out? And I like to house hack a building where one unit is really close to covering the expenses. Now, most of the time, let me be real with you, most of the time that won't happen, especially in today's market. You're going to have to use some of that other unit, but you will also, you may have to kick in a little bit, a couple $100 like I did when I built that first one. I still had to kick in a little bit of money, but I got to live pretty much for free. So I calculate it as though I don't live there to see if it's a deal.
Good point. Okay. So he did that. Adrian wants to know, can you add the link for my Barron's real estate dictionary, please? Oh, Adrian, just go to chrishaskins.com, recommended reading. It's right there. Recommended books. Just go right there. You can get that book.
Awesome.
That's just for definitions. Mr. Nath, have you had the opportunity to do owner financing with apartment buildings, Mike, rather than going to the bank? If so, what was that experience like for you?
All the time. And here is the thing. I never, and I mean with a capital N and capital ever, buy a building without asking them if they'd be interested in doing seller financing. I always ask every single deal. I never buy a building without at least asking, because if they are willing to, I might be able to get into the deal with better terms than the bank. And I might be able to, it might be a better deal for me. Maybe I need to come up with less cash. So the answer is absolutely. I always ask. And so what was that like for me? Simply anytime I find a deal, I go to, in fact, one of the products, Chris, I didn't even tell you this, one of the products that we are coming out with coming up, and this wasn't even what Chris and I were talking about earlier, was seller financing secrets, because I want people to know how to find seller financing deals, because those will change your career.
Man.
Those will change your career. In fact, if I had it to do, I'm going to give you a power tip. This is a power tip. You ready for this?
Yeah.
If I had it to do over again, if I was starting over again, what I'd do is I'd go in whatever area I wanted to buy. I'd go to realtor.com and LoopNet and all the areas where you can find multifamily real estate. I'd write down every single address within a 10-mile radius, and I'd call every single agent or owner and ask them if they do seller financing. Every single one. I'd go through the list, every single property, every single one, and just asking if they do seller financing. And if they will, then I go look at the property, and then we're off to the races. But that's if I was starting off, that's what I do. I call every single owner in any area I was trying to buy in and ask them if they do SF.
That's the subject. Owner financing and subject to my favorite ways.
Oh man. Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, by the way, seller financing sometimes might be called land contract or vendor take back or vendor financing. Different terms. It's just know that it's where the seller holds the loan and you make the payment to the seller rather than a bank.
The seller is participating in your financing, y'all.
You got it.
Casual Wealth TV, how did the government-backed rent deferral law for tenants affect your rental collection and your deal underwriting? Oh, I guess we went over that already.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Again, the biggest thing with that was a struggle for us was when they pushed off evictions, when we couldn't evict people for not paying because we had a couple tenants really struggling. In a normal circumstance, we probably would have started with the eviction process because they got backed up 2-3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But we worked with them and they're caught back up. And so we want to work with them. So it really didn't affect us a lot. And this is the thing, man, mindset's key, right, man? If you start looking for that stuff to impact it, it will. But for us, we're just like, this is our situation. We're going to figure it out.
Gene, are any of your multifamily units Section 8, and do they have any additional requirements for multifamilies for Section 8?
No. So yeah, we have some Section 8 tenants in our units, and
Gold.
Yeah. They and I mean, as long as they're treating the property well, we like working with them. Section 8 in our cities, we try to really build good relationships with the Section 8 offices inside of
you, right? They love having good landlords.
Oh, they do, especially people that'll take care of their tenants. And so we get calls all the time. Hey, do you guys have any units available? Do you have any units available? Because we have 5 people that we want to place. And
wow.
And you can charge anywhere from 8 to 12% more in rent for a Section 8 tenant. Now you can't switch the payment. Like you can't say, okay, I'm going to, it's Section 8, I'm going to charge more money. You can't do that, but you can, if you know you live in an area where there's a lot of Section 8, you can charge a little bit more in rent because there's some risk involved in having somebody that may have a track record. So you can do that. But yeah, no, Section 8's great. Yep.
We love it. This is it, Mike. I said, well, and do you have any opinion on new builds?
New builds, building new apartments or building new units? Oh, absolutely. So right now, unless you are skilled in this, I would say buy something that already exists. It's cheaper right now to buy something that exists than to put something up from brand new. And Chris, you know that because you do some new construction, and it's cheaper to buy an existing building than it is to build new. Now, building for new has its perks. Like we're actually looking at I own a property that has a little house on it in Michigan that's on a commercial street. I can't sell it residential. I had a business in it at one point, my wife's business, and she has since we bought a commercial property for her business, and I own this little house. I rent it out. Doesn't really make me any money. In fact, I think it loses me a little bit of money every month. So we're looking at scraping the house and building a 12-unit apartment building. But because we got that house so cheap, it kind of makes sense because we got the commercial lot so cheap. But that's one of the reasons why building apartment buildings is so expensive, is because commercial lots are really pricey. And now if you're going under 4 units, you can go residential, but then you hit into some zoning things, making sure you can put a multifamily building in certain areas of town. You have to look. And so building is not, I'm not against it. You just have to make sure the numbers work. You know what I love about multifamily real estate and numbers, guys. I'm a numbers guy, but you know what I love about them? Numbers don't care what my feelings are. They don't care. They don't care if I had a bad day. They don't care if I had a good day. They're going to tell me the truth. And I like that. Yep. And so they just tell me the truth. So if the numbers work, do it.
They can't lie.
No, man, I love them.
Well, new construction, I love new construction. I love existing. But the problem with the new construction is you don't have too much value. There's not too much more value for a half-built property than a piece of land. So you're starting out. Until you have that CO, that certificate of occupancy, you get so much risk.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk. Yeah. Now, if you built a property, filled it up with cash paying tenants at a rent rate, and then sold it, now you're talking.
That'd be a beast.
That's what we're playing with this building, is this 12 unit is we're thinking about is building it, filling it 100% with leases, and then selling it to an investor, and then taking that and go and investing in something else. But that's a play. You could definitely do that, but you'd have to fill those units to make it really valuable, because an empty multifamily is not valuable. It's just a box. Right?
Round up. Thank you for the 85 people here. Mike, I'm going to make sure he comes back on. We don't have a date or time yet, but Mike, you are promising me that you're going to come back on with some training, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll definitely, whenever it works for Chris and you guys, we'll come back on, and I'm in the middle of putting together something that'll walk through this with you guys, a robust training, and even some group calls to make sure that you guys have access to my head on some deals maybe you're doing. So, but that's only that's only with Chris's team for the Roundup fam. So
I appreciate that, Mike. I mean, I feel like it just could be this nebulous blob of unending questions. Single family is one hurdle. You know what? I'm not even saying problems anymore, Mike.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, because the hurdles can be gotten over, right? We just got to learn it.
Over it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people see what you do and all your subject twos and your flips and new constructions. They're like, how the heck does Chris do that, man? I mean, I can't do that. And there was a day when we knew nothing, you know, and it took, and I did my first investment in 2001. I was 20 years old, right? I've been learning about this stuff I turned 40 in 2 weeks, man. I've been learning about this stuff for 20 years. And so it's not something that you're like, but that's the power of this channel, and what we're going to come back on and talk about is you get to leverage all my mistakes for 20 years and all my successes and mistakes, so you don't do them.
That's a lot. Thank you for that, Mike. Final thoughts as we let you go out of here. Remember, Roundup tonight, I'm going to open up the registration for my private money masterclass. I will be offering it on Wednesday, August 12th at 3 p.m. I'm literally just decided to do this today because I've gotten so many emails from people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Anybody who does not show up for that masterclass, man, you crazy. Because let me tell you, this is where it's at, man. If you can learn to raise private money, you will never be without a job in real estate. Because that is, I'm telling you, it's the best skills that you can ever have. And a lot of people hear raising private money and they think salesman. You don't have to know sales or be a salesman. In fact, sometimes the more salesy you are, the worse you do in private money.
Yeah, you're like, I'm good now. I'm good.
Yeah. No, you just, the more cool you are and know the game, what Chris is going to teach you. And obviously Chris is one of the best at it. So please show up tomorrow, man. That is just such, all these, a lot of problems in multifamily. This stuff can be learned. Once you have cash, man, you can do anything.
That's something, right? You know, it's weird, man. I feel like I got air under my wings, dude. I feel like I can just kind of coast a little bit now that I've learned how to create my own financing. You know, I don't know what it is about it, Mike.
Well, because financing is what stops. It's what stopped us all from growing big fast. And you've solved the biggest problem for any business is cash, right? You're a master at solving that problem, man. And I'll tell you what, Dan Kennedy said one time, the person that can help get customers in the door is the highest paid person in any industry. And in the multifamily real estate, that's the point. The person that can find deals and find money, those are your two most valuable resources.
Nice. Right.
You're learning the biggest. And I would say finding money is more important even than finding deals, because, deals we can go out and find a lot with a lot less information than money. And that's why I would be here tomorrow, because that puppy is going to be good.
Yep. So yeah, Mike, I'm gonna let you go, man. Final thoughts for anybody that's looking to get into the multifamily, and then we're gonna let you get out of here.
Absolutely. First of all, Chris, thank you. This has been so refreshing just to sit and talk about multifamily. I love it.
The house for what? You haven't been able to get on the stage and do your thing.
Oh, I know, man. Yeah, I've been a professional speaker on the road for 10 years, man. I love to speak. That's what I love to do is impact people. And Chris giving me this opportunity has been it's just been so refreshing. But every single person can get in multifamily. I don't care if you are brand new, you've never invested, or you have 25 single family homes, or you've flipped 100. Everybody can get into multifamily real estate. And yes, even you, and can get into multifamily real estate. It's a really safe game to get in because you've got the rents to back you up. So, you can get into multifamily real estate. You've got the rents to back you up. You can house hack. There's so many different ways to do it, but it creates passive income. A lot of people are investing in their 401ks, or they're investing in, and I'm saying for me, I'm going to invest in something that grows my money every single month. I always say this, and I told this, I said this to Chris when we were on our podcast. I said this. I was told when I was a kid that money doesn't grow on trees. But people that believe money doesn't grow on trees have never owned multifamily real estate, because money grows every single month after year after year. And that's why I love multifamily real estate. It pays me all the time. There is no end to its cash, because it just pays me every single month. And that's why I love it. If I buy a flip, it's great. I get a $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 injection of cash. And that's awesome. That's why I love it, because I can take that and invest in other things. And that's a phenomenal way to do it. But at some point, you're going to want to get on your knee and play with your grandkids or your own kids and not have to go out swing hammers. And you're going to want something that's paying you while you're at the beach with your beautiful family, friends, and kids. And that's what I love to do. I want to create freedom so people can truly live their life. So thank you for your time. Time is the greatest asset of anything, and you gave it to us today. And I want to, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you.
That is so cool. I feel like I'm whacked now, Mike, because I don't do no more. I'm like, I don't have no multifamily. I need to go.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like the only way. I also think that what you're doing, man, is you can create a lot of cash, and you can speed your multifamily up if you're doing it alongside what you're doing.
Yeah, I need to figure. I'm like, man, Chris, you whack. You need to go. You need to go. I'm like, I'm standing on my soapbox with my lease options and my single family. I need to really consider this too, Mike. So we'll be staying in touch on putting this stuff together.
I love it, man. And what you offer, Chris, is invaluable. So thanks for all the work you do on the internet. And 2 years ago, I Googled something. I was on YouTube and I looked up and I saw this guy named Chris Haskins, started looking at his stuff. And 2 years later, here we are. So thank you for the impact, brother.
That is cool. All right, Roundup. If you have any further questions, Mike will check back to answer some of that stuff. It won't be in the chat, but you have to put the questions in the comments below so he can come back and kind of take care of you for that.
I'd love to.
Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and share with any other investors, even like me, that are interested in getting into multifamily. Listen, I'm opening up the private money masterclass tonight. Make sure you hit the bell so you know when we come on. I'm going to give you a killer deal on my prospectus. You got to have a prospectus when you sit down with people to borrow money. Mike, let me ask you, do you have something in writing where you sit, or do you just sit down in front of somebody and be like, look, this is what we're doing?
Yeah, no, I definitely, you have to have something to hand them. You definitely have something, because it just sets you apart. If I walk up, or let's say if Chris walks up with a prospectus and sits down with something and said, this is what I do. This is how we work with investors. And then you come up and say, or if I come up and say, yeah, I'm an investor, want you to invest with me, but I don't have anything, who sticks out? Right? It's the person that has something to leave with them, and it makes you look more professional. So that's what I'm saying, man. Getting there tomorrow is key, because you need that. You
take time, Mike, to invest in your presentation. Even when you dress up, how you dress, how you look, people look at you. They say, look, you took time to put this together for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, Roundup. I love you. See you soon.
See you guys. Thanks for your day.
Yep.